And I'm like, do you think we're
No, I don't.
Okay. Oh. Hi. Okay. This is going really well so far.
I mean, we are as live as we can be.
But I remembered.
Nice.
There we go. Okay, yes, tell me about Cyclops.
So his thing is extremely dangerous, but it's also his like superpower, which the analogy is simply that make sure you're pointing in the right direction. And if you're pointing in the right direction, then it's like really cool to have lasers coming out of your eyes. Maybe it's not lasers. I don't know.
I think it's a laser.
Okay.
Or has it been? Why did he wear special glasses though?
Yeah, to keep it inside.
Because otherwise it would like
destroy people.
Yeah, destroy the world. Okay.
So he has his way of like practicing safe sight, and in many ways, like that's his superpower. It's the thing that makes him wonderful and talented and skilled and whatever, all the good shit about being a superhero. And it's also extremely destructive because if he faces the wrong direction or doesn't have his fucking thing or like opens his eyes and looks at like his child, they're dead.
Right.
So the force itself is neither good nor bad.
Okay.
It depends on where it's pointing.
Okay.
So your ability to tune into like all these various extremely detailed questions and thoughts that go on upstairs is neither good or bad, nor bad. So is it serving you? You're saying no, right? That's very possible. But it doesn't mean that the skill is not good.
Okay.
Like maybe you've been using it as a dangerous laser to like cut things up. But that doesn't mean it can't also be good.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to get this life thing. Other people seem to be able to build a life that makes sense. They learn the things that are useful to the lives that they want to lead. And then they stack it one after the other. And so that when you look back, oh, it all makes sense. They were gathering moss.
Gathering moss?
Yeah, let's call it that. Like they were gathering the thing that they needed. And that their lives came together in some cohesive way at some point.
That's narrative structure.
That's like looking back. Okay, I'm just saying that it looks like, if anything, like I'm just starting over every time. I have no idea what I'm doing, ever. Ever. I can't water plants.
But you do.
I mean,
you wouldn't have you would have been eaten by something by now. You clearly do because you're here.
Yeah, I don't know how. That doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not surprised that you don't know how because you make a career out of not knowing how. Like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so of course you don't know. Because that's part of the whole thing.
Okay.
But you did. You've made a bunch of life choices. The same as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it for many years. You've literally done the thing that you're describing everybody else is doing.
Yes. I did. You're still doing it. Then it feels like I did take I was like, no, we're going to go down a different road.
What was the different road?
The different road was I made my career first above everything.
Okay.
Always decided things. It was like, what's good for the career?
Okay.
I was feeding a little animal, and I was not a good person being that way.
Because?
Um,
What do you mean not a good person?
I was self-centered. I wasn't good in my relationships.
Okay.
You know, like I didn't have a lot of love.
Okay.
And yeah, I was just not trying to get to the bottom of any of my feelings. Ever. It was just, what's good for the career? Let's move on.
Okay.
So I stopped doing that. And it's felt like, if anything, after doing that, the career, like, and now I have no idea how I managed. Looking back, I'm very aware of like how unhappy I was, but it's still kind of extraordinary that I was able to have a career from that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea how I did it, but it worked fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just, it feels like the exact opposite thing that everyone tells you when it comes to like self growth. It's like, invest in yourself and things will go so much better actually in the long run, because you will be more available. It actually feels like the exact opposite has happened. Like I am more stable and secure in myself.
Okay.
And I don't have the ability to like to draw anything good into that. I don't know why.
What do you mean you don't have the ability to draw anything good into it?
So just the career thing is, like it's just not. It's a little bit stuck right now, and it does kind of look like, if I look at other friends, they stayed on that path and they became better actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like honed their skills, and now they're like seeing
Okay.
the results of like all that dedication and hard work.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to have real lives too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they did the thing where they worked on their careers, and now they're getting to like have families or get married, or they're doing something different now. Now their lives are expanding beyond their careers in a different way. And I don't know where I'm going. Now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to come back now, and it feels like, no, you left. You don't get to come back.
But you don't want to go back. Also, like, you kind of glossed over the fact that you changed countries.
Right. That's probably, yeah.
Like, when you move from one place to another, you have to, in some ways, start over. And again, like, maybe there are people with amazing luck and something happens right off the bat. But for a lot of people, there's a huge amount of putting in,
Yeah.
and not immediately seeing results to that. So I think moving from Toronto to LA was kind of a big thing that you seem to sort of have just glossed over in the narrative.
Yeah, I don't acknowledge that.
It's a thing that happened.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's a transition that's always hard for every person. People experience things in different ways. But it's occurred to me repeatedly that might be a major part of the struggle that you are facing, which is very not personal.
And it's not just like a physical struggle either. It's like it's still a little bit psychological. And I know it can get into your head when you're just getting it's not even rejection. You know, like actors or people think like an actor's life is full of rejection. It's not. Rejection would be something that you could actually learn to deal with. It's silence. It's like continuously being ghosted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's great.
It leaves you maximum room to make up whatever is happening.
Exactly.
To be as fantastic or as horrendous as you can possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. And there's no way to confirm or deny.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yeah. It's just an echo chamber for you to live inside. So people who have like lots of confidence, I don't know, maybe there's people out there who are like, they were intimidated by how good I was. Or I
there's
don't
totally
know.
People out there who do
that is, oh God. And then it works for them.
No, not everyone.
Not everyone, but like a lot of people, and maybe not. Who knows? Who knows?
Also, something working for them doesn't mean it would work for you. It doesn't mean, oh, that thing that they're doing is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like your coworker from Tinstar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that, like, if you went around talking and functioning like her,
yeah,
I don't know that that would necessarily be a great thing for your career, even though it might work for her in her life the way she functions. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not legitimizing the route. Somebody else having taken a route doesn't make the route a great route.
Yeah. Yes. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There's a part of me that's like, is that true? Don't they say that, like, oh, anything that you want to do, guess what? There's a blueprint. Just find other people that have done that thing and do the things that they did.
I've never heard that in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could be like, sure. Just start going around being like, hi, I'm amazing. You really want to meet me?
Maybe.
I mean, I could, sure. Anyway. It's not all bad. I still don't get it.
Get what?
I don't know the thing that I'm supposed to get.
What's the it?
That makes me feel like a worthwhile human being.
I don't think it's a thing that someone's going to give to you. Not that you're making it sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's hiding in a book somewhere or hiding in someone's brain somewhere. And they'll just like spit it out or pass it over to you. And then you'll be like, oh!
Yeah. It's not an outside source. And the feeling like a valuable human being is something you have to give to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of whatever the exterior looks like.
And it takes a lot of calories. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a long and arduous work. And you're like digging and digging and you're like, is there a fucking point to digging ever? When is this going to start looking like a trench? The other thing is that, like, just because you are where you are in your life doesn't mean it's the de facto end of this narrative. You're like, there was this thing, I was doing this, such and such was going great, and then I made this other choice, and now this part's going well, but turns out I blah blah blah. That's like a narrative arc that is like a non-existent thing that you've made selectively with selective information, and the climax, the like post-climax, even the like denouement or whatever, is this. But that's not real.
Cool. I know, but this is like the weird thing about trusting yourself. Your brain works a certain way. It just does. You have certain grooves, and it connects certain things.
Everyone's brain works the same way, mostly.
Right. So there's like this thing where it's like you're supposed to trust yourself, unless the way that your brain works and the way that you put together a story or something hurts you. And then I don't know what I'm supposed to trust. And I don't know what I'm supposed to work with. You know, because that's more of the like, oh, I don't get it, so I need a different way to think.
Why is it more of that?
It's more of the like, it's more of the I don't get it.
What's more of the I don't get it?
If I'm like, oh, the narrative I'm telling myself or something is really...
This is a rhetorical Celtic knot that you've made.
Yeah, cool.
So enjoy it. You're just going to be like this for eternity.
Pretty much.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. And it's also like, I think it's important to know that just because a person makes something that they then perceive as a mistake, it doesn't mean their brain's not reliable. Not being where you're at is not a sign that you don't know where you're going. It doesn't mean the whole thing is broken. Just because it's something spits out one quote-unquote faulty data point, or 2 or 3 or 7 or 20, things that you are like, oh, see? No. Just because it does that doesn't mean it's incapable of doing other things really beautifully and really well. So you can keep your wrong data points and the like, you can keep all of it and add new things. That way you're not trying to shrug off like a skin, something that feels like it's part of you. What if it's like a toolbox and you're like, cool. Based on the places that I've been and the things that have happened and whatever else, I've made certain choices. They've enabled me to realize X. I've learned Y. I hope next time I'll see A, B, and C coming because now that's a thing that I'm aware of. You put them all in your like little box and you're like, okay, next. So whatever else you want to do, can maybe just get added. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with the system. Not in a fundamental way. Like I have depression, right? I don't know if you consider that something being wrong with the system. So I guess I'm not suggesting you don't have depression. Maybe you do. I don't know. But I still don't think that means there's something, like, your system is untrustworthy.
It's one aspect. Maybe don't go there.
Yeah, don't go there.
There's a whole lot going on that's going on.
Yeah, and you can add stuff. You can add stuff like, I made a choice to like start reading the news.
Yeah.
Or like, everything that you're like, this that I said or did, this is something that I like, or I feel happy about, or I'm proud of myself for, or I'm glad I did, or what, all of the things that you want, you can like stop adding. And just in general, like, I have no doubt that everything that you have experienced, including the last few years, including right now, I have no doubt that this adds, frankly, to your ability to your emotional range. What kind of actor would you be if you didn't know how to fundamentally be confused about reality?
What?
I just mean, like, this is an existential problem you're exploring.
Yeah, cool.
What kind of fucking actor doesn't know how to navigate an existential problem?
Are you being serious right
Yes!
now? Really?
Yes!
I think most actors never, ever, ever even think about this.
Okay, well, then they're probably not that great.
I would feel so comforted if just like everyone spoke about this. I was like, I feel crazy all the time.
A lot of people feel crazy. Yeah, you're definitely not alone with that. Maybe not everyone, and certainly not everyone's talking about it. But there was a lot, like, in that conversation with Eric about, there's nothing wrong with your brain. It's good. It's really good. There was something for me that was really good. That was hugely reassuring, and I didn't even realize that I was doing what I was doing. I didn't even realize I'd been putting it down.
Yeah.
And you put yours down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. There might not be anything wrong with it. And that is not a sign that something is wrong with it, that you can't realize that there's nothing wrong with it. It's literally just a rhetorical mess. Are you over it?
You know what it's like? It's like those pictures, when you're supposed to like relax your eyes and then you see the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I keep thinking, just there's another secret illusion in the thing. I have to, and then once I get that, this whole other dimension is going to reveal itself. And maybe that's true, maybe that isn't. I don't know. But it definitely doesn't serve me to be like living my life this way. Being like, yeah, but I'm not seeing the real picture. This isn't the real life. There's something beyond it.
It is like that.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Totally. My dad used to chant this thing sometimes when he was meditating.
mm-hmm.
He'd go, "Oh, life is sweet and death a dream." Do you know this?
No.
Oh. Oh, life is sweet and death a dream. Oh, I found my Lord and my Son is sweet. I don't know. And I used to hear this growing up. I think, yeah, it was like this. It's like life is not what it seems, you know?
Also, if that happened like away elsewhere and wasn't shared, that makes it seem more like there's another world that you're not getting into.
Well, definitely. Like enlightenment, I guess, was kind of in the house all the time. And it can definitely be talked about like that. Like all is illusion. Everything's an illusion. We're not really here. My parents used to talk about like, you know, they have my mom would be like, "I'm not really my body." I'm like, "I'm not really my body. I'm not really my mind."
I think personally that is a very confusing thing to say to a child.
Yeah, because I think it's like
But I think you have to be a full-on adult, honestly, to be able to put that in the context that it belongs in.
Like you have to have a body before you can let it go. In that sense, you have to like fully be in your body before you can explore other avenues.
Also, we do experience life through our bodies.
Right. Yeah,
So-
like that's the thing that's happening. That's the reason you're alive. Otherwise, all the other stuff wouldn't happen. Like, you can't achieve enlightenment, even if we're doing that, whatever. You can't achieve enlightenment unless you're born, unless you're alive.
which is a very bodily function.
Yeah. Right.
Like her body made a body. I don't feel particularly worried about you.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, you're fine. Like, I'm not like, oh, what's gonna happen if, I don't know.
Ooh.
I'm not concerned that you're gonna, like, spend your whole life in a Celtic knot.
Okay.
It's gonna be fine.
That's different. Because I was like, oh yeah, I can see like people not being worried about me because I'm really good at just like stuffing things down and it's like
That's not what I meant.
getting on with it.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah, okay.
I mean that you have all the ingredients. It's a little bit like my handstand.
Yeah, it is.
Are you very worried that I'll never get my handstand?
I'm not very worried.
Are you slightly worried that I'll never get my handstand?
It's conceivable you never get it.
Okay. It's conceivable.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. You have all the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more than likely that you'll be like, oh, here I am.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take for you to get it.
Exactly. I don't either.
And if you knew, you would do it.
This is like a flawless analogy. It's flawless.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't understand how anything in the world works.
Yes, you do.
It's all a miracle.
Yes, you do, though. You do, though. You know how to make donuts.
I know how to follow a recipe to make donuts.
Okay.
And I know presumably it's pretty much like making bread.
Okay.
But just sweet.
That's a thing that you know. I don't know that.
You do.
No, I don't. I think there's something to do with flour.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like yeast, that because it
yeah.
something, and water. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'm just saying, like, anyone could be a mass murderer. Like, everyone, no one knows anything. But like, together we can kind of like cobble something together.
I'm thinking of that circle.
Which circle?
There's like what you know, what you don't know, what you know you don't know,
and what you don't know you don't know.
But this makes me feel like I created my own, and maybe other people too.
Shall we draw what yours looks like?
There's like what I don't know, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like what I know. It's like over here. Then it's like what I don't know I know is like that. And then what I don't know in your mind is like the rest of the whole fucking pie. You're like missing. All missing.
All missing. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's funny.
Because there is no don't know you know.
Right?
Yeah, that was the whole joke. Donald Rumsfeld was like an unknown known. And people were like, that's not a thing.
It's not.
That's the only combination that can't be.
Couldn't that be like what your conscious brain doesn't know that your subconscious knows?
But then how do you know you know it?
What do you mean?
How do you know it belongs in that pile then? Whatever it is.
It's just a guess.
I wonder if this is as riveting to
I don't know. I have a feeling like people are like, what? What are they talking about?
Maybe some moments, yeah.
Apparently Evan's mom watched for a split second on Facebook and was like, has Janessa gone crazy?
What?
Yeah. So maybe, DJ. I don't know.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What did you do that was crazy?
I don't know. I don't know what we were talking about. I don't know what we were talking about. I get that we talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, they're like
maybe a way that is not familiar to a lot of people. That's fine.
Yeah. I hope you didn't internalize that.
Oh, I fully did.
No!
That's sweet.
Why did you do that, DJ? Is that her name?
Yeah, that's her name.
Why?
Oh, she didn't say it to me.
That's true. Why did you do that, Evan? Why?
She didn't say that. Yes, she did. Say more. She said, has Janessa gone crazy? Does that mean we're actually like pretty live? That he responded that quickly?
Yes.
That's great.
I actually was like, that can't be a response to what you're saying. That's probably from 20 minutes ago. When people are like, I know that brown diagram thing.
How are you?
I'm okay, I think.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Okay. You don't know?
I don't know.
Or you don't know that you know?
She said you were talking about the stars and moons.
I don't remember talking about that. You said, okay. I don't know why I internalize your mother's comments. I do. She apparently once read my blog posts and said they were too depressing.
Is she very cheerful, is she?
She is. Yeah.
He did not. Which is probably a response to you being like, you said.
I did. I mean, like, maybe you didn't say crazy. Maybe you're like, is Janessa lost it? Or is Janessa okay? It was implied.
Was it because you were in your jammies?
No, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm doing this.
I mean, this is a little bit
backtracking.
crazy.
He's backtracking.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
You can read that from where you are sitting?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay. Interesting.
It was not. Okay. But you're all right? You slept a lot today.
I slept disturbingly long. I slept for 11 hours, which is really weird.
Do you feel great?
I feel all right. Yeah, I didn't wake up feeling like, what happened? Yeah, I felt okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've decided, well, I don't know about decided, but I feel as though the state that most people are in general, like, he's saying how long?
11 hours.
What's 11 hours?
I think that's what he was asking. How long?
How long what?
How long you slept?
Oh.
I think.
11 hours.
Yeah.
The
state that people are in?
People are in a lot of shitty situations, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. And the whole trusting yourself thing, part of that for me is instead of going into a judgment place, which is very, 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 very easy, or like going into a shame spiral for being asleep for 12 hours and being like, oh, I have nothing better to do. There's so many places to go with that. But instead, and this is what I actually think, and thankfully I feel like I'm able to perceive it because of trying to trust myself. I don't think I can sleep that long if I don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't think my body does that. Because by and large in life, it's not like every chance I get, I sleep till noon. That's not how my clock works. So it's a little bit like, if that's what happened, I don't know what the reason is, but I'm just going to be like, you knew what you needed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not someone who just like, I don't know, you set your own structure and you always have. Right?
I don't know. Is there structure?
Like, there's been some people who are like, oh, I'm suddenly like sleeping till 1 in the afternoon and going to bed at 3 a.m. or whatever, and you haven't had that reaction, and you're rarely ever like that.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, I used to stay up late.
Okay. And
during the whole quarantine thing, I can't believe you can read that from there. Do you want to read it out loud?
The world is in pandemic.
Before that too.
What, all of it?
No, after how long?
Time has no meaning in the new world.
Yeah.
The world is in a pandemic. It's more than okay for anyone to spend the time doing nothing. This is so interesting. No, I need to look for it. Staying inside and resting, we're all feeling this massive shift and cloud and weight over everything. It's overarchingly exhausting.
Yeah.
I read I didn't read the news article, but I read a headline that said, why why you're having vivid dreams during the pandemic.
I had intense dreams last night and the night before.
I've had them every day.
And so have my parents and my sister. That Korean movie dream.
Yeah, that's right.
All of that was in this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I should find that
I
article
want
and
to
read
read the
it.
article.
Yeah.
I want you to have read that article.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's related.
I'm a little concerned that like I haven't felt like working out by myself.
Yeah.
And a part of me is like, oh, if I stop working out with Ray, what's gonna happen? But then this is a trust moment again. Like I have to just be like, I will not sink into bed and never come out.
If you want to work out together, we can do that too. Okay. If that would be more,
I was just trying to
talked about
it. That wasn't. It wasn't an emotional response to what you're saying.
No, but because we. As much as it's great that there's all these online classes, there is something to like having a live element to it. And if it's not live, then having some, and then you'll look so good in comparison. It'll really motivate you. Why is that how I think it'll work? That you'll be like, yeah, I'm great at this, and then that'll really make you want to work out.
I am great at this.
She is.
Side note.
Yeah.
But that's an independent calculation.
Oh, okay. I don't need to be there for her to make that conclusion.
What I'm saying is it's not a comparative thing.
Right, yeah.
This little light of mine, I am going to let it shine. Is what I'm saying, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
What a great song. I'm serious. What a great song.
Actually, yeah. Not enough people recognize that. There's a lot of free workout classes right now.
Yes, there is. And I have bookmarked several.
Okay.
And there are several people that I like doing things. And for the first few days, I was extremely excited.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's been a bit of a dip.
Yeah. Me too.
But again, like instead of whatever, I heard you jumping today. You did something. You were doing stuff today. She's acting like she didn't work out. She did.
I didn't really.
Yes, you did. I heard it.
No, what you heard was me trying to do TikTok.
Why were you jumping?
Because I was trying to do TikTok.
You don't have to jump for TikTok.
You do if there's dancing.
Okay, so you were dancing.
Yeah, but it wasn't a workout.
I don't know, but it seems very sketchy.
It's me trying to.
Oh my god! But that doesn't make noise on the floor.
No, and then there's like, I'm not very good. Something to work on. Like I don't know how to dance. Yeah. No, there's jumping. I don't need to show you. Anyway, that's what you heard. It wasn't a workout.
Okay.
Yeah.
I slept through Daniel's class this morning. That fucking sucked.
I know. Can you?
But maybe the sleep asana was like the one that I needed.
That's right.
You can spend the whole class in sleep asana if you need it. It's there for you. That's what I did.
Can you catch? Did he record his class?
They record them, but I don't know where they're going.
Yeah, what are they recording these things for?
No idea. No idea. Posterity?
You can ask for it. Maybe.
I could. There's no harm in asking. Ask and you might receive.
Whatever.
Don't ask and you surely won't.
Surely. Or maybe.
I mean, you might.
Why do people say that? You might get it.
If you didn't ask.
There's lots of things you get that you don't ask for.
I have this ongoing joke with myself that I find funny and that nobody else I don't think finds funny. Where like there's a situation and I'll be like, you know what they say? when there's like an idiom or like a what do you call those things? Idioms?
Yeah, a saying.
Yeah, a saying. When there's a really obvious saying, I'm like, you know what they say, and then people are like, what did they say? And I'm like, sometimes when blah blah blah, this happens, and then other times when blah, and I'll make it like really specific to whatever the situation is, and it's like the exact opposite of a simplifying idiom. It's like sometimes if you decide not to go to the gym, then you get really fat and you never leave the house again. But other times, if you don't go to the gym, you go the next day. And it's okay.
I have heard that.
That's what they say.
They is very wise.
They knows everything. Yeah, I always find that I find that more amusing than anybody else, but I think it's pretty funny.
It's also like a good joke to always have on hand.
To just have it on hand like Bilibin.
Yeah.
Just like whip it
Because
out.
you could whip that out
Literally
in relation to anything.
any moment. Yeah, people just have to be saying
that's it.
something about something.
Yeah.
And there has to be some sort of like uncertainty in the situation. Like it has to be a certain kind of conversation.
Yeah, if the person's like, I don't know this, and then you're
Right.
like, well, let me give you
Yes.
some sage advice. Like,
You
you know what they say?
Blah, blah, blah.
Sometimes when you sleep for 11 hours,
It means you're super depressed.
it means you're really depressed, and you should sleep for 11 hours, or maybe 2 you shouldn't have,
Right.
and set an alarm.
That's what they say. Sometimes
I need to work on it. You do it better.
your phone needs a bit of work.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes your body really needs to sleep for 12 hours, and other times you have a problem. You have a health issue. What did we read yesterday, do you think?
We read about, what did we read? Parties? The birds threw a party.
The birds threw a party that was like every other party, which is a great thing. They were happy about that. And Andre is like fully in love. Is that true?
Yeah. He doesn't seems infatuated, maybe.
But Natasha's acting weird also.
Well, yeah, she's despondent. We don't really know why. Do we know why yet?
I think it might. I don't know. He's telling it in such a. He tells stories in such a weird way.
Yeah.
Like the navigating into this. If it's going to be like a relationship between them, we are taking such a weird route to the destination. Like narrative. What are we doing where we are in Pierre and like.
I don't know.
We have no idea what she thinks. No idea what she feels. It's such a weird device to be using. Like, God forbid we go into her journals. We must go into Pierre's.
No, never. Are we ever in Natasha's point of view?
No.
We were a little at the party, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But very rarely because she's the like. She's not the audience.
It's often, from someone else's point of view, their perspective of her.
Yeah. Which keeps her a bit up and a bit over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a story about the two of them maybe being together and we're really confused about how they're getting there. Party that Pierre was like excited about it, but also a little sad because all these old fucks apparently are into Natasha, the 16-year-old.
Hey,
Hey yo, cool.
no one's really her mother did. Her mom's doing an okay job.
Okay.
There's been a few times now Natasha goes to her mom and is like, this guy's gonna propose, or I'm in love with him, or da-da-da, and she's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go talk to him. You don't love him, and you're too young.
She does that with Dennis
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mother.
Whose name we do not know.
Jesus.
You have too many names in this thing. That would get confusing.
It's like, if you know too many of the ladies' names, it's like how you can tell which lady is which lady.
Ugh.
Because they're all wearing dresses.
Yeah, that would just get chaotic.
They probably all got white hands.
No, we don't really talk about the ladies' hands that much. It's the men's hands we're concerned with.
Well, there's perfect clarity there. Every hand has been different. Every male hand. Every man's hand.
I can't think of a description of a female hand.
And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like not talking.
Now I'm pretty sure it'll come up.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're at book 6, chapter 18.
Oh my god.
Start.
You'll start.
Well, are you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually chapter 22.
Is that
where we are?
Is that not where we are?
Where are we?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Where were you? 18.
I don't know why I'm there.
Yeah, I think this is one of the only times that my thing's been right.
Okay.
And
No, I
your
think
phone's been...
you are correct.
Because read the previous chapter. I mean, the end of the... Berg, navigated Pierre into a discussion so that he might induce a loud conversation among the men. Right? Chapter 22.
Yes.
You said you were going to start.
Okay.
So
Next day, having been invited by the Count, Prince Andrew dined with the Rostovs and spent the rest of the day there.
Everyone in the house realized for whose sake Prince Andrew came, and without concealing it, he tried to be with Natasha all day. Not only in the soul of the frightened yet happy and enraptured frightened Natasha, but in the whole house there was a feeling of awe at something important that was bound to happen. The Countess looked with sad and sternly serious eyes at Prince Andrew when he talked to Natasha, and timidly started some artificial conversation about trifles as soon as he looked her way. Sonia was afraid to leave Natasha and afraid of being in the way when she was with them. Natasha grew pale. In a panic of expectation when she remained alone with him for a moment, Prince Andrew surprised her by his timidity. She felt that he wanted to say something to her, but could not bring himself to do so.
In the evening, when Prince Andrew had left, the Countess went up to Natasha and whispered, "Well, what?"
"Mama, for heaven's sake, don't ask me anything now. One can't talk about that," said Natasha.
But all the same, that night, Natasha, now agitated and now frightened, lay a long time in her mother's bed, gazing straight before her. She told her how he had complimented her, how he told her he was going abroad, asked her where they were going to spend the summer, and then how he had asked her about Boris.
"But such a never happened to me before," she said. "Only I feel afraid in his presence. I am always afraid. By the way, she should be afraid because he's a narcissist. Okay. I am always afraid when I'm with him. What does that mean? Does it mean that it's the real thing? Yes? Mama, are you asleep?"
"No, my love, I'm frightened myself," answered her mother. "Now go."
"All the same, I shan't sleep. What silliness to sleep. Mummy! Such a thing never happened to me before," she said, surprised and alarmed at the feeling she was aware of in herself. "How could we ever have thought?"
It seemed to Natasha that even at the time she first saw Prince Andrew at Otradino, she had fallen in love with him. It was as if she feared this strange, unexpected happiness of meeting again the very man she had then chosen. She was firmly convinced she had done so, and of finding him, as it seemed, not indifferent to her.
And it had to happen that he should come specially to Petersburg while we are here. And it had to happen that we should meet at that ball. It is fate. Clearly, it is fate that everything led up to this. Already then, directly I saw him, I felt something peculiar.
What else did he say to you? What are those verses? Read them, said her mother thoughtfully, referring to some verses Prince Andrew had written in Natasha's album.
Mamma, one need not to be ashamed of his being a widower.
Don't, Natasha. Pray to God. Marriages are made in heaven, said her mother.
Confusing response.
Yeah.
Darling Mummy, how I love you, how happy I am, cried Natasha, shedding tears of joy and excitement and embracing her mother.
At that very time, Prince Andrew was sitting with Pierre and telling him of his love for Natasha and his firm resolve to make her his wife.
That day, Countess Helena had a reception at her house. The French ambassador was there, and a foreign prince of the blood who had of late become a frequent visitor of hers, and many brilliant ladies and gentlemen. Pierre, who had come downstairs, walked through the rooms and struck everyone by his preoccupied, absent-minded, and morose air.
Since the ball, he had felt the approach of a fit of nervous depression and made desperate efforts to combat it. Since the intimacy of his wife with the royal prince, Pierre had unexpectedly been made a gentleman of the bedchamber.
Huh?
And from that time, he had begun to feel oppressed and ashamed in court society. And dark thoughts of the vanity of all things human came to him oftener than before.
What?
Your thoughts of the vanity of all things human? What are those thoughts?
I think you know.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't know, and I also don't know what it is to be a gentleman of the
I
bedchamber.
don't know either.
That sounds just like he's being called a bit slutty.
But it sounds like an official title. A gentleman of the bedchamber.
He says the perfectly written narcissist. He really is. He really is. It's amazing.
At the same time, the feeling he had noticed between his protege, Natasha, and Prince Andrew accentuated his gloom by the contrast between his own position and his friends. He tried equally to avoid thinking about his wife and about Natasha and Prince Andrew. And again, everything seemed to him insignificant in comparison with eternity. Again, the question, for what, presented itself.
See? You and Pierre.
I know.
Peas. Pod.
Yeah. And he forced himself to work day and night at Masonic labors, hoping to drive away the evil spirit that threatened him. Toward midnight, after he had left the Countess's apartments, he was sitting upstairs in a shabby dressing room, copying out the original transaction of the Scottish Lodge of Freemasons at a table in his low room cloudy with tobacco smoke, when someone came in. It was Prince Andrew.
Ah, it's you, said Pierre with a preoccupied, dissatisfied air. And I, you see, am hard at it. He pointed to his manuscript book with that air of escaping from the ills of life with which unhappy people look at their work.
Prince Andrew, with a beaming, ecstatic expression of renewed life on his face, paused in front of Pierre and, not noticing his sad look, smiled at him with the egotism of joy.
Well, dear heart, said he, I wanted to tell you about yesterday, and I have come to do so today. I never experienced anything like it before. I am in love, my friend.
Suddenly, Pierre heaved a deep sigh and dumped his heavy person down on the sofa beside Prince Andrew.
Natasha Rostova. Yes, said he.
Yes. Who else should it be? I should never have believed it, but the feeling is stronger than I. Yesterday, I tormented myself and suffered, but I would not exchange even that torment for anything in the world. I have not lived till now. At last I live, but I can't live without her. But can she love me? I'm too old for her. Why don't you speak?
Because you won't shut up for 5 seconds, dude.
Well, speak! Speak! Say something!
I, what did I tell you? Said Pierre, suddenly rising and beginning to pace up and down the room. I always thought it. That girl is such a treasure. She is a rare girl, my dear friend. I entreat you, don't philosophize, don't doubt. Marry, marry, marry. And I am sure there will not be a happier man than you. Wow.
That line of thinking around marriages has really been spectacular.
Don't think,
turned out very well for everyone. But what of her?
She loves you.
Don't talk rubbish.
She does.
Prince Andrew, smiling and looking into Pierre's eyes.
She does. She does. I know, Pierre cried fiercely.
But do listen, returned Prince Andrew, holding him by the arm. Do you know the condition I am in? I must talk about it to someone.
Well, go on. I'm very glad, said Pierre. His face really changed. His brow became smooth, and he listened gladly to Prince Andrew.
Oh, okay. He came around quite quickly.
He just went like this and switched his
That's it.
flipped his
Switch. That's the problem? Do I just need to...
Yeah.
Oh!
See right there?
This is like if I assembled an IKEA bookshelf wrong this whole time. Just needed a different screw.
It's the wrong screw.
It's the wrong screw, that's it.
You can never get anywhere with the wrong screw. Okay. He listened gladly to Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew seemed and really was quite a new man. Where was his spleen, his contempt for life, his disillusionment? Pierre was the only person to whom he made up his mind to speak openly, and to him he told all that was in his soul. Now he boldly and lightly... Oh, interesting. Nuance.
Ha! How would you do that boldly and
lightly? Yeah.
For whatever reason, I just imagine jumping over stepping stones on a pond.
We shall live in the country. Was that it? Shit. Okay. Now he boldly and lightly made plans for an extended future, said he could not sacrifice his own happiness to his father's caprice. I don't know how to say that word ever.
That's right. And
spoke of how he would either make his father consent to this marriage and love her, or would do without his consent. Then he marveled at the feeling that had mastered him as at something strange, apart from and independent of himself. Of course, apart from himself. I hope everyone's.
I should not have believed anyone who told me that I was capable of such love, said Prince Andrew. It is not at all the same feeling that I knew in the past. The whole world is now for me divided into two halves. One half is she, and there all is joy, hope, light. The other half is everything where she is not, and there is all gloom and darkness.
Darkness and gloom, reiterated Pierre. Yes, I understand that.
Pierre. I cannot help loving the light. It is not my fault.
You hate the light.
And am I very happy? You understand me? I know you are glad for my sake.
So glad. Yes, Pierre assented, looking at his friend with a touched and sad expression in his eyes. The brighter Prince Andrew's lot appeared to him, the gloomier seemed his own. How true, Pierre?
Chapter 23. Prince Andrew needed his father's consent to his marriage, and to obtain this, he started for the country next day.
His father received his son's communication with external composure, but inward wrath. He could not comprehend how anyone could wish to alter his life or introduce anything new into it, when his own life was already ending. If only they would let me end my days as I want to, thought the old man. Then they might do as they please. With his son, however, he employed the diplomacy he reserved for important occasions, and, adopting a quiet tone, discussed the whole matter.
In the first place, the marriage was not a brilliant one as regards birth, wealth, or rank. Secondly, Prince Andrew was no longer as young as he had been, and his health was poor. The old man laid special stress on this. Is his health poor? Okay.
I don't know. He's not very in touch with his body.
That's true. He's
maybe this
all those
whole
burgers, Burger Kings.
Yeah, maybe this whole time his body's been falling apart, and he just hasn't noticed.
But he's such a good dancer.
Oh, maybe he broke his body dancing.
I don't know. His spleen.
Where is his spleen?
Where's your spleen, sir?
I'm gonna ask people that
now. Thirdly, he had a son whom it would be a pity to entrust to a chit of a girl. Fourthly and finally, the father said, looking ironically at his son, I beg you to put it off for a year. Go abroad, take a cure, look out as you wanted to for a German tutor for Prince Nicholas. Then, if your love or passion or obstinacy, as you please, is still as great, marry. And that's my last word on it. Mind the last, concluded the prince, in a tone which showed that nothing would make him alter his decision.
Prince Andrew saw clearly that the old man hoped that his feelings or his fiancée's would not stand a year's test, or that he, the old prince himself, would die before then, and he decided to conform to his father's wish, to propose and postpone the wedding for a year.
3 weeks after the last evening he had spent with the Rostovs, Prince Andrew returned to Petersburg.
Next day after her talk with her mother, Natasha expected Bolkonsky all day, but he did not come. On the second and third day it was the same. Pierre did not come either, and Natasha, not knowing that Prince Andrew had gone to see his father, could not explain his absence to herself.
3 weeks passed in this way. Natasha had no desire to go out anywhere, and wandered from room to room like a shadow, idle and listless. She wept secretly at night, and did not go to her mother in the evenings. She blushed continually, and was irritable. It seemed to her that everybody knew about her disappointment, and was laughing at her and pitying her. Strong as was her inward grief, this wound to her vanity intensified her misery.
Once she came to her mother, tried to say something, and suddenly began to cry. Her tears were those of an offended child who does not know why it is being punished. This is a little fucking patronizing. Sorry.
Is it?
I don't know, I'm just mad.
The Countess began to soothe Natasha, who, after first listening to her mother's words, suddenly interrupted her.
Leave off, Mama! I don't think and I don't want to think about it. He just came and then left off. Left off.
Her voice trembled. She again nearly cried, but recovered and went on quietly.
And I don't at all want to get married, and am afraid of him. I have now become quite calm. Quite calm.
The day after this conversation, Natasha put on the old dress, which she knew had the peculiar property of conducing to cheerfulness in the mornings, and that day she returned to the old way of life which she had abandoned since the ball. Having finished her morning tea, she went to the ballroom.
This is the way to be.
Yeah?
Right?
She's like, I'm going to dust myself off.
She's like, all right, now fuck that. Good for her.
Having finished her morning tea, she went to the ballroom, which she particularly liked for its loud resonance, and began singing her solfeggio. When she had finished her first exercise, she stood still in the middle of the room and sang a musical phrase that particularly pleased her. She listened joyfully, as though she had not expected it, to the charm of the notes reverberating, filling the whole empty ballroom, and slowly dying away. And all at once she felt cheerful. What's the good of making so much of it? Things are nice as it is, she said to herself, and she began walking up and down the room, not stepping simply on the resounding parquet, but treading with each step from the heel to the toe. She had on a new and favorite pair of shoes, and listening to the regular tap of the heel and creak of the toe as gladly as she had to the sounds of her own voice. Passing a mirror, she glanced into it. There, that's me, the expression of her face seemed to say, as she caught sight of herself. Well, and very nice, too. I need nobody.
A footman wanted to come in to clear away something in the room, but she would not let him, and having closed the door behind him, continued her walk. That morning, she had returned to her favorite mood, love of and delight in herself.
So sweet.
Oh. How charming that Natasha is, she said again, speaking as some third collective male person. Pretty, a good voice, young, and in nobody's way, if only they leave her in peace. But however much they left her in peace, she could not now be at peace, and immediately felt this.
In the hall, the porch door opened, and someone asked, At home? And then footsteps were heard. Oh no. Natasha was looking at the mirror, but did not see herself. She listened to the sounds in the hall. When she saw herself, her face was pale. It was he. She knew this for certain, though she hardly heard his voice through the closed doors.
Pale and agitated, Natasha ran into the drawing room.
Mama, Bolkonsky has come, she said. Mama, it is awful. It is unbearable. I don't want to be tormented. What am I to do?
Before the Countess could answer, Prince Andrew entered the room with an agitated and serious face. As soon as he saw Natasha, his face brightened. He kissed the Countess's hand and Natasha's and sat down beside the sofa.
It is long since we had the pleasure, began the Countess, but Prince Andrew interrupted her by answering her intended question, and obviously in haste to say what he had to.
I have not been to see you all this time because I have been at my father's. I had to talk over a very important matter with him. I only got back last night, he said, glancing at Natasha. I want to have a talk with you, Countess, he added after a moment's pause.
Countess lowered her eyes, sighing deeply.
I am at your disposal, she murmured.
Natasha knew that she ought to go away, but was unable to do so. Something gripped her throat, and regardless of manner, she stared straight at Prince Andrew with wide open eyes.
At once? This instant? No, it can't be, she thought.
Again he glanced at her, and that glance convinced not mistaken. Yes, at once, that very instant, her fate would be decided.
Oh, Natasha, I will call you, said the Countess in a whisper.
Natasha glanced frightened, imploring eyes at Prince Andrew and at her mother and went out.
I have come, Countess, to ask for your daughter's hand, said Prince Andrew.
The Countess's face flushed hotly, but she said nothing.
Your offer, she began at last sedately. He remained silent, looking into her eyes. Your offer, she grew confused, is agreeable to us, and I accept your offer. I am glad, and my husband, I hope, but it will depend on her.
I will speak to her when I have your consent. Do you give it to me? Said Prince Andrew.
Yes, replied the Countess. She held out her hand to him, and with a mixed feeling of estrangement and tenderness, pressed her lips to his forehead as he stooped to kiss her hand. She wished to love him as a son, but felt that to her he was a stranger and a terrifying man. I am sure my husband will consent, said the Countess, but your father.
My father, to whom I have told my plans, has made it an express condition of his consent that the wedding is not to take place for a year. And I wish to tell you of that, said Prince Andrew.
It is true that Natasha is still young, but so long is that.
It is unavoidable, said Prince Andrew with a sigh.
I will send her to you, said the Countess, and left the room.
Lord have mercy upon us, she repeated while seeking her daughter.
Sonia said that Natasha was in her bedroom. Natasha was sitting on the bed, pale and dry-eyed, and was gazing at the icons and whispering something as she rapidly crossed herself. Seeing her mother, she jumped up and flew to her.
Well, Mamma, well?
Go to him. He is asking for your hand, said the Countess, coldly, it seemed to Natasha. Go, said the mother, sadly and reproachfully, with a deep sigh as her daughter ran away.
Natasha never remembered how she entered the drawing room. When she came in and saw him, she paused. Is it possible that the stranger has now become everything to me? She asked herself, and immediately answered, yes, everything. He alone is now dearer to me than everything in the world. Prince Andrew came up to her with downcast eyes.
I have loved you from the very first moment I saw you. May I hope?
He looked at her and was struck by the serious, impassioned expression of her face. Her face said, why ask? Why doubt what you cannot but know? Why speak when words cannot express what one feels?
She drew near to him and stopped. He took her hand and kissed it.
Do you love me?
Yes, Natasha murmured as if in vexation. Then she sighed loudly and, catching her breath more and more quickly, began to sob.
What is it? What's the matter?
Oh, I'm so happy, she replied, smiled through her tears, bent over close to him, paused for an instant, as if asking herself whether she might, and then kissed him.
Prince Andrew held her hands, looked into her eyes, and did not find in his heart his former love for her. Something in him had suddenly changed. There was no longer the former poetic and mystic charm of desire.
I can't.
But there was pity for her feminine and childish weakness, fear at her devotion and trustfulness, and an oppressive yet joyful sense of the duty that now bound him to her forever. The present feeling, though not so bright and poetic as the former, was stronger and more serious.
I have mixed feelings about this. Did your mother tell you that it cannot be for a year? Asked Prince Andrew, still looking into her eyes.
Is it possible that I, the chit of a girl, as everybody called me, thought Natasha, is it possible that I am now to be the wife and the equal of this strange, dear, clever man, whom even my father looks up to? Can it be true? Can it be true that there can be no more playing with life, that now I am grown up, that on me now lies a responsibility for my every word and deed? Yes, but what did he ask me?
No, she replied, but she had not understood his question.
Forgive me, he said, but you are so young, and I have already been through so much in life. I am afraid for you. You do not yet know yourself.
Natasha listened with concentrated attention, trying but failing to take in the meaning of his words.
Hard as this year which delays my happiness will be, continued Prince Andrew, it will give you time to be sure of yourself. I ask you to make me happy in a year, but you are free. Our engagement shall remain a secret, and should you find that you do not love me, or should you come to love, said Prince Andrew with an unnatural smile.
Why do you say that? Natasha interrupted him. You know that from the very day you first came to Otradno, I have loved you, she cried, quite convinced that she spoke the truth.
In a year you will learn to know yourself.
A whole year? Natasha repeated suddenly, only now realizing that the marriage was to be postponed for a year. Why a year? Why a year?
Prince Andrew began to explain to her that the reasons for this delay. Natasha did not hear him.
And can't it be helped? She asked. Prince Andrew did not reply, but his face expressed the impossibility of altering that decision.
It's awful. Oh, it's awful. Awful, Natasha suddenly cried, and again burst into sobs. I shall die waiting a year? It's impossible. It's awful. She looked into her lover's face and saw in it a look of commiseration and perplexity.
No, I'll do anything, she said, suddenly checking her tears. I am so happy.
The father and mother came into the room and gave the betrothed couple their blessing.
From that day, Prince Andrew began to frequent the Rostovs as Natasha's affianced lover. I like how he becomes her lover the second he proposes.
Very much. You have mixed feelings?
Yeah.
We'll see. Chapter 24. No betrothal ceremony took place, and Natasha's engagement to Bolkonsky was not announced. Prince Andrew insisted on that. He said that he was responsible for the delay, he ought to bear the whole burden of it. That he had given his word and bound himself forever, but that he did not wish to bind Natasha, and gave her perfect freedom. If after 6 months she felt that she did not love him, she would have full right to reject him. Naturally, neither Natasha nor her parents wished to hear of this. But Prince Andrew was firm. He came every day to the Rostovs, but did not behave to Natasha as an affianced lover. Okay. He did not use the familiar thou, but said you to her, and kissed only her hand. After their engagement, quite different, intimate, and natural relations sprang up between them. It was as if they had not known each other till now. Both liked to recall how they had regarded each other when as yet they were nothing to one another. They felt themselves now quite different beings. Then they were artificial, now natural and sincere. At first the family felt some constraint in intercourse with Prince Andrew. He seemed a man from another world, and for a long time Natasha trained the family to get used to him, proudly assuring them all that he only appeared to be different, but was really just like all of them, and that she was not afraid of him and no one else ought to be.
Wait, why is he so scary?
Because he's so smart.
Because he's grumpy?
Pretty much.
Okay.
So smart and experienced. He's lived in the world in a way that they have not. I don't know.
Okay.
After a few days, they grew accustomed to him, and without restraint in his presence pursued their usual way of life, in which he took his part. He could talk about rural economy with the Count, fashions with the Countess and Natasha, and about albums and fancy work with Sonia. Sometimes the household, both among themselves and in his presence, expressed their wonder at how it had all happened, and at the evident omens there had been of it. Prince Andrew's coming to Otradno, and their coming to Petersburg, and the likeness between Natasha and Prince Andrew, which her nurse had noticed on his first visit, and Andrew's encounter with Nicholas in 1805, and many other incidents betokening that it had to be.
In the house, that poetic dullness and quiet reigned which always accompanies the presence of a betrothed couple. Often, when all sitting together, everyone kept silent. Sometimes the others would get up and go away, and the couple left alone still remained silent. They rarely spoke of their future life. Prince Andrew was afraid and ashamed to speak of it. Natasha shared this as she did all his feelings, which she constantly divined. Once she began questioning him about his son. Prince Andrew blushed, as he often did now. Natasha particularly liked it in him, and said that his son would not live with them.
Why not?
He's never lived with.
Right.
He's never lived with me. That's why I don't care for him.
Why not? Asked Natasha in a frightened tone.
I cannot take him away from his grandfather. And besides,
Oh, I should have loved him, said Natasha, immediately guessing his thought. But I know you wish to avoid any pretext for finding fault with us.
avoid any pretext for finding fault. Sometimes the old count would come up, kiss Prince Andrew, and ask his advice about Petya's education or Nicholas's service. The old countess sighed as she looked at them. Sonia was always getting frightened lest she should be in the way and tried to find excuses for leaving them alone, even when they did not wish it. But when Andrew spoke, he could tell a story very well. Natasha listened to him with pride. When she spoke, she noticed with fear and joy that he gazed attentively and scrutinizingly at her. She asked herself in perplexity, what does he look for in me? He is trying to discover something by looking at me. What if what he seeks in me is not there? Sometimes she fell into one of the mad, merry moods characteristic of her, and then she particularly loved to hear and see how Prince Andrew laughed. He seldom laughed, but when he did, he abandoned himself entirely to his laughter, and after such a laugh, she always felt nearer to him. Natasha would have been completely happy if the thought of the separation awaiting her and drawing near had not terrified her, just as the mere thought of it made him turn pale and cold.
On the eve of his departure from Petersburg, Prince Andrew brought with him Pierre, who had not been to the Rostovs once since the ball. Pierre seemed disconcerted and embarrassed. He was talking to the Countess, and Natasha sat down beside a little chess table with Sonia, thereby inviting Prince Andrew to come too. He did so.
You have known Bezhukov a long time, he asked. Do you like him?
Yes, he's a dear, but very absurd.
And as usual, when speaking of Pierre, she began to tell anecdotes of his absent mind. Sorry, who's telling what's happening?
I think Natasha and Andrew are talking.
Oh, and he's not there, Pierre?
No.
Okay. And as usual, when speaking of Pierre, she began to tell anecdotes of his absent-mindedness, some of which had even been invented about him.
Do you know I've entrusted him with our secret? I've known him from childhood. He has a heart of gold. I beg you, Natalie, Prince Andrew said with sudden seriousness. I'm going away, and heaven knows what might happen. You may cease to... All right, I know I am not to say that. Only this, then. Whatever may happen to you when I am not here...
What can happen?
Whatever trouble may come, Prince Andrew continued, I beg you, Mademoiselle Sophie, whatever may happen, to turn to him alone for advice and help. He is a most absent-minded and absurd fellow, but he has a heart of gold.
Neither her father, nor her mother, nor Sonia, nor Prince Andrew himself could have foreseen how the separation from her lover would act on Natasha. Flushed and agitated, she went about the house all that day, dry-eyed, occupied with the most trivial matters, as if not understanding what awaited her. She did not even cry when, on taking leave, he kissed her hand for the last time. Don't go, she said in a tone that made him wonder whether he really ought not to stay, and which he remembered long afterwards. Nor did she cry when he was gone, but for several days she sat in her room, dry-eyed, taking no interest in anything, and only saying now and then, why did he go away?
But a fortnight after his departure, to the surprise of those around her, she recovered from her mental sickness just as suddenly and became her old self again. But with a change in her moral
No idea.
physiognomy, as a child gets up after a long illness with a changed expression of face.
What do you think is going to happen in the intervening
What's
time?
going to happen? Is he going to get called away to war again?
Mabes.
I think that's.
Do you know what I think is going to happen?
Oh, Pierre.
Yeah.
Hells yes.
Hells yeah.
Yeah, of course. He's like, turn to Pierre for all your needs. He has a heart of gold.
I know.
Totally. I hope so, at least.
It took me a really long time to realize that.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what if? Like 5 minutes ago.
What if? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But there was a bit too much of like, what could change?
Chapter 25.
25. During that year, after his son's departure, Prince Nicholas Bolkonsky's health and temper became much worse. He grew still more irritable, and it was Princess Mary who generally bore the brunt of his frequent fits of unprovoked anger. Cool. He seemed carefully to seek out her tender spots so as to torture her mentally as harshly as possible. Jesus. Princess Mary had 2 passions and consequently 2 joys, her nephew, little Nicholas, and religion. Just like me. And these were the favorite subjects of the prince's attacks and ridicule. Whatever was spoken of, he would bring round to the superstitiousness of old maids or the petting and spoiling of children. You want to make him, little Nicholas, into an old maid like yourself. A pity. Prince Andrew wants a son and not an old maid, he would say. Or turning to Mademoiselle Bourrienne, he would ask her, in Princess Mary's absence, how she liked our village priests and icons and would joke about them.
Presents.
I said absence?
Yeah.
Presents.
The opposite of that.
Yeah, just opposite.
He continually hurt Princess Mary's feelings and tormented her.
I literally thought, like, well, that's not so bad because he's not around here.
No, in her presence. Right to her face.
Sorry.
He continually hurt Princess Mary's feelings and tormented her, but it cost her no effort to forgive him. Could he be to blame toward her, or could her father, whom she knew loved her in spite of it all, be unjust? And what is justice? The princess never thought of that proud word justice. All the complex laws of man centered for her in one clear and simple law, the law of love and self-sacrifice, taught us by him who lovingly suffered for mankind, though he himself was God. What had she to do with the justice or injustice of other people?
He himself was God. See? Remember we talked about this the other day? Eons ago?
She had to endure, yes, that Jesus is God.
Yeah.
Cool. What had she to do with the justice or injustice of other people? She had to endure and love, and that she did.
This is actually what good Christians do, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
They just, like, they stay in their own lane and focus on their own shit. And not, like, because there's that whole, like, who am I to judge? Casting the first stone thing.
Yeah.
But that's not how most Christians are.
Think they're judgmental?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it seems like people pick and choose.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my favorite passage. It's like everyone's got their favorite thing, and that's what they do.
Yeah. Okay. During the winter, Prince Andrew had come to Bald Hills and had been gay, gentle, and more affectionate than Prince Mary had known him for a long time past. She felt that something had happened to him, but he said nothing to her about his love. Before he left, he had a long talk with his father about something, and Princess Mary noticed that before his departure, they were dissatisfied with one another.
Soon after Prince Andrew had gone, Princess Mary wrote to her friend Julie Karadina in Petersburg, whom she had dreamed, as all girls dream, of marrying to her brother, who was at that time in mourning for her own brother, killed in Turkey.
Wait, what brother?
Julie Karadina's.
I know, but isn't...
Julie.
Who wrote her a letter, but isn't her... I thought maybe her brother we knew, but maybe not. Sorrow, it seems, is our common lot, my dear, tender friend Julie.
Your loss is so terrible that I can only explain it to myself as a special providence of God, who, loving you, wishes to try you and your excellent mother. Oh, my friend, religion, and religion alone can, I will not say comfort us, but save us from despair. Religion alone can explain to us what, without its help, man cannot comprehend. Why, for what cause, kind and noble beings able to find happiness in life, not merely harming no one but necessary to the happiness of others, are called away to God, while cruel, useless, harmful persons, or such as are a burden to themselves and to others, are left living. The first death I saw, and one I shall never forget, that of my dear sister-in-law, left that impression on me. Just as you asked Destiny why your splendid brother had to die, so I asked why that angel Lisa, who not only never wronged anyone, but in whose soul there were never any unkind thoughts, had to die. And what do you think, dear friend? 5 years have passed since then, and already I, with my petty understanding, began to see clearly why she had to die, and in what way that death was but an expression of the infinite goodness of the Creator, whose every action, though generally incomprehensible to us, is but a manifestation of his infinite love for his creatures. Perhaps, I often think, she was too angelically innocent to have the strength to perform all a mother's duties. As a young wife, she was irreproachable. Perhaps she could not have been so as a mother. As it is, not only has she left us, and particularly Prince Andrew, with the purest regrets and memories, but probably she will there receive a place I dare not hope for myself. But not to speak of her alone, that early and terrible death has had the most beneficent influence on me and on my brother in spite of all our grief. Then, at the moment of our loss, these thoughts could not occur to me. I should then have dismissed them with horror, but now they are very clear and certain. I write all this to you, dear friend, only to convince you of the gospel truth, which has become for me a principle of life. Not a single hair of our heads will fall without his will, and his will is governed only by infinite love for us, and so whatever befalls us is for our good.
You ask whether we shall spend next winter in Moscow. In spite of my wish to see you, I do not think so and do not want to do so. You will be surprised to hear that the reason for this is Bonaparte. The case is this. My father's health is growing noticeably worse. He cannot stand any contradiction and is becoming irritable. Now, this irritability is, as you know, chiefly directed to political questions. He cannot endure the notion that Bonaparte is negotiating on equal terms with all the sovereigns of Europe, and particularly with our own, the grandson of the great Catherine. As you know, I am quite indifferent to politics, but from my father's remarks and his talks with Michael Ivanovich, I know all that goes on in the world, and especially about the honors conferred on Bonaparte, who only at Bald Hills, in the whole world, it seems, is not accepted as a great man, still less as Emperor of France. And my father cannot stand this. It seems to me that it is chiefly because of his political views that my father is reluctant to speak of going to Moscow, for he foresees the encounters that would result from his way of expressing his views regardless of anybody. All the benefit he might derive from a course of treatment he would lose as a result of the disputes about Bonaparte, which would be inevitable. In any case, it will be decided very shortly.
Our family life goes on in the old way except for my brother Andrew's absence. He, as I wrote you before, has changed very much of late. After his sorrow, he only this year quite recovered his spirits. He has again become, as I used to know him when I was a child, kind, affectionate, with that heart of gold to which I know no equal. He has realized, it seems to me, that life is not over for him, but together with this mental change, he has grown physically much weaker.
He has become thinner and more nervous. I am anxious about him and glad he is taking this trip abroad, which the doctors recommended long ago. I hope it will cure him. You write that in Petersburg he is spoken of as one of the most active, cultivated, and capable of the young men. Forgive my vanity as a relation, but I never doubted it. The good he has done to everybody here, from his peasants up to the gentry, is incalculable. On his arrival in Petersburg, he received only his due. I always wonder at the way rumors fly from Petersburg to Moscow, especially such false ones as that you write about. I mean the report of my brother's betrothal to the little Rostova. I do not think my brother will ever marry again, and certainly not her. And this is why. First, I know that though he rarely speaks about the wife he has lost, the grief of that loss has gone too deep in his heart for him ever to decide to give her a successor and our little angel a stepmother. Yikes. Secondly, because as far as I know, that girl is not the kind of girl who could please Prince Andrew. I do not think he would choose her for a wife, and frankly, I do not wish it. But I am running on too long and am at the end of my second sheet. Goodbye, my dear friend. May God keep you in his holy and mighty care. My dear friend, Mademoiselle Bourrienne, sends you kisses. Mary. She's like, all of this nonsense is rumors, and then she's like, I hear she's a little shit.
Pretty much.
But like,
Why?
it doesn't seem like she knows anything about her.
Yeah, you never met her. Don't judge, Mary.
Mary, don't be so judgy. Leave that to God.
Yeah. Chapter 26. In the middle of the summer, Princess Mary received an unexpected letter from Prince Andrew in Switzerland, in which he gave her strange and surprising news. I wonder what it is. He informed her of his engagement to Natasha Rostova. The whole letter breathed loving rapture for his betrothed and tender and confiding affection for his sister. He wrote that he had never loved as he did now, and that only now did he understand and know what life was. He asked his sister to forgive him for not having told her of his resolve when he had last visited Bald Hills, though he had spoken of it to his father. He had not done so for fear Princess Mary should ask her father to give his consent, irritating him and having to bear the brunt of his displeasure without attaining her object. Besides, he wrote, the matter was not then so definitely settled as it is now. My father then insisted on a delay of a year, and now already 6 months, half of that period, have passed, and my resolution is firmer than ever. If the doctors did not keep me here at the spas, I should be back in Russia, but as it is, I have to postpone my return for 3 months. I don't know. They're just like, he's thin.
And he's like, the doctors are making me spa all the time.
Yeah, that's what people used to do. To get well.
Right.
So, in Switzerland. Cool. You know me and my relations with father. I want nothing from him. I have been and always shall be independent. But to go against his will and arouse his anger, now that he may perhaps remain with us such a short time, would destroy half my happiness. I am now writing to him about the same question and beg you to choose a good moment to hand him the letter and to let me know how he looks at the whole matter and whether there is hope that he may consent to reduce the term by 4 months.
After long hesitations, doubts, and prayers, Princess Mary gave the letter to her father. The next day, the old prince said to her quietly,
Write and tell your brother to wait till I am dead. It won't be long. I shall soon set him free.
The princess was about to reply, but her father would not let her speak, and raising his voice more and more, cried,
Mary, Mary, my boy, a good family, clever people, eh? Rich, eh? Yes. A nice stepmother little Nicholas will have. Write and tell him that he may marry tomorrow if he likes. She will be little Nicholas's stepmother, and I'll marry Bourrienne. Ha 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 ha. He mustn't be without a stepmother either. Only one thing. No more women are wanted in my house. Let him marry and live by himself. Perhaps you will go and live with him too, he added, turning to Princess Mary. Go, in heaven's name. Go out into the frost. The frost! The frost!
What is happening to him? After this outburst, the prince did not speak any more about the matter. What could he possibly have had to say? But repressed vexation at his son's poor-spirited behavior I thought repressed was a verb. It's not here. But repressed vexation at his son's poor-spirited behavior found expression in his treatment of his daughter. To his former pretexts for irony, a fresh one was now added. Allusions to stepmothers and amiabilities to Mademoiselle Bourrienne.
Oh no. I don't know if he's being serious.
I don't think he is.
Why shouldn't I marry her? He asked his daughter. She'll make a splendid princess.
And latterly, to her surprise and bewilderment, Princess Mary noticed that her father was really associating more and more with the Frenchwoman. She wrote to Prince Andrew about the reception of his letter, but comforted him with hopes of reconciling their father to the idea.
Little Nicholas and his education.
Does it seem hopeful to her?
Oh, she's like, oh, it'll be fun. He's like, into the frost with you.
He's like, into the frost with until I'm dead.
She's like, it's great. He'll come around.
Yeah, I think we've got some wiggle.
Little Nicholas and his education, her brother Andrew, and religion were Princess Mary's joys and consolations. But besides that, since everyone must have personal hopes, Princess Mary, in the profoundest depths of her heart, had a hidden dream and hope that supplied the chief consolation of her life. This comforting dream and hope were given her by God's folk, the half-witted and other pilgrims who visited her without the prince's knowledge. The longer she lived, the more experience and observation she had of life, the greater was her wonder at the short-sightedness of men who seek enjoyment and happiness here on earth, toiling, suffering, struggling, and harming one another to obtain that impossible, visionary, sinful happiness. Prince Andrew had left his wife. She died. But that was not enough. He wanted to bind his happiness to another woman. Her father objected to this because he wanted a more distinguished and wealthier match for Andrew. And they all struggled and suffered and tormented one another and injured their souls, their eternal souls, for the attainment of benefits which endure but for an instant. Not only do we know this ourselves, but Christ, the Son of God, came down to earth and told us that this life is but for a moment and is a probation, yet we cling to it and think to find happiness in it. How is it that no one realizes this, thought Princess Mary. No one except these despised God's folk who, wallet on back, come to me by the back door, afraid of being seen by the prince, not for fear of ill usage by him, but for fear of causing him to sin, to leave family, home, and all the cares of worldly welfare, in order without clinging to anything to wander in hempen rags from place to place under an assumed name, doing no one any harm but praying for all, for those who drive one away as well as for those who protect one. Higher than that life and truth, there is no life or truth.
There was one pilgrim, a quiet, pockmarked little woman of 50 called Theodosia, who for over 30 years had gone about barefoot and worn heavy chains.
Ooh.
Oh my God. Princess Mary was particularly fond of her.
Of course.
Once, when in a
I
room...
admire your chains, Theodosia.
My, are you still barefoot? Jesus. Once, when in a room with a lamp dimly lit before the icon, Theodosia was talking of her life, the thought that Theodosia alone had found the true path of life suddenly came to Princess Mary with such force that she resolved to become a pilgrim herself. See, I feel like she's dealing with the same stuff you are as well. Everyone is.
You're Russian. Not.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Jeremy. We all know Russian ancestry, sadly.
You got it?
Yeah.
I want to know everything.
It's not that interesting.
It's not.
But okay, I'll show you after.
No hidden siblings?
It doesn't reveal that. That would be so good.
That's what everyone else gets from 23andMe.
Hidden siblings?
Yes! It's like a cliche.
What?
People are like, yeah, I had a brother that I never knew about.
Because if other people have 23andMe, then it shows up? I don't think
guess
not enough
not.
of my family members have done it.
Well, I mean, or you don't have any secret brothers and sisters.
I think so.
Okay. That's a disappointment.
It's
No.
a disappointment.
No, but I want to know stuff still. Okay.
Little Pilgrim Mary.
Yeah. When Theodosia had gone to sleep, Princess Mary thought about this for a long time, and at last made up her mind that, strange as it might seem, she must go on a pilgrimage. She disclosed this thought to no one, but to her confessor, Father Akinfi, the monk, and he approved of her intention. Under guise of a present for the pilgrims, Princess Mary prepared a pilgrim's complete costume for herself, a coarse smock, bast shoes, a rough coat, and a black kerchief. Often, approaching the chest of drawers containing the secret treasure, Princess Mary paused, uncertain whether the time had not already come to put her project into execution.
Often, listening to the pilgrims' tales, she was so stimulated by their simple speech, mechanical to them, but to her so full of deep meaning, that several times she was on the point of abandoning everything and running away from home. In imagination, she already pictured herself by Theodosia's side, dressed in coarse rags, walking with a staff, a wallet on her back, along the dusty road, directing her wanderings from one saint's shrine to another, free from envy, earthly love, or desire, and reaching at last a place where there is no more sorrow or sighing, but eternal joy and bliss.
I shall come to a place and pray there, and before having time to get used to it or getting to love it, I shall go farther. I will go on till my legs fail, and I'll lie down and die somewhere, and shall at last reach that eternal quiet haven, where there is neither sorrow nor sighing, thought Princess Mary.
But afterwards, when she saw her father, and especially little Coco, Nicholas, her resolve weakened. She wept quietly, and felt that she was a sinner who loved her father and little nephew more than God.
Cool. That's the end of book 6.
The end of book 6.
Wow.
It's funny that her sincere, I do relate to this. Her sincerest dream, no, I shouldn't say this, is like, I will go and wear really terrible clothes and never find peace anywhere. Anytime I find myself settled, I'll move on to the next spot until I die.
Until I lie down and die somewhere. Finally, I'll be pure.
And then she doesn't get to do this wonderful dream. And so then she experiences, so then she's sad, which I would think is like, hey, if you want to punish yourself, just like, don't get to do things. There you go. That's true punishment. And then she punishes herself further for being a sinner, for loving her family.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
You relate to that?
Yeah, I know.
It's like all roads lead to punishment. If you go this way, pilgrimage, it circles back. You stay at home, it circles back.
It's like, don't worry, you'll find a way to punish yourself.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I used to be that way with guilt.
Mm-hmm.
That was my Costa Rica experience.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit. The constant is guilt, and I just sub things in and out of it.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with the actual situation.
Right. And now there's no more guilt, right?
I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
You want to end there?
Yeah, wasn't that the idea?
Yeah, I think so. Excuse me.
Are you gonna cry?
Excuse me, what? No.
Excuse me, what? I wish Harry Potter was watching. Not Harry Potter, my mother.
7.
Are you excited? What's
We're
happening?
almost halfway.
What? No, we aren't.
Almost.
If
Almost.
by almost you mean 40%.
Yeah.
That's almost?
It's almost halfway.
All right.
40 is almost 50.
40 is almost 50, 50 is almost 100! Is that how it's goes? That's how numbers work, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I hope my mother and sister have gone to sleep.
I hope so as well.
Last night they were like farting around at 3 a.m. I was like, guys, it's late here.
What are they doing that for? Go to sleep.
Moving stuff around. I don't know. Almost there!
Yeah.
Yeah! You have some real tenacity, Acorn.
Sure, he's been doing other things.
He hasn't. He's been wrapped.
Has he just been sitting, watching, listening? Oh!
And then what happened?
No, it's right. You think Andrew's gonna die? The sickliness is not.
It seems weird.
Right.
Yeah. And he just threw it in when it was convenient.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, now that he's in love and like getting married and stuff, let's remind everyone that he's been sick this whole time.
Why doesn't Andrew intervene with his father at all when it comes to his sister? He's not a very good brother.
He's a horrible brother. And
meanwhile,
he's
she's
even was
raising
father.
his kid.
Right.
He's never like, hey, Papa, maybe like don't emotionally abuse Princess Mary.
Verbally, emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
It's horrible. Okay. Well,
maybe he's scared of him.
I'm mostly. He kind of is, but then he also doesn't really seem to be afraid of anyone.
Yeah, but that might be a bit of a performance.
Just marry her.
Marry who?
Natasha.
I don't want them to get married.
Right? You're all doomed.
I'm like really scared about that. But now Constance said they find out.
I think they will.
I hope for her sake that they will.
He's not yet. I think he's got to get better.
Something happens, right? They were like, he alluded to.
Maybe he's too sick to get married. I don't know. Now I'm like, oh, he can't go to war if he's sick.
No. But he wasn't going to war anyway. He was in the, what's it called, department.
There's very little war going on.
So little war. It's mostly peace. Mostly peace.
You know what's going to happen? Yeah. Cheers up.
Mm. You think it'll be like...
I hope Natasha becomes a wise woman. You know what I mean?
I hope she doesn't become depressed.
Yeah, right?
Seems like she doesn't. She does it for 2 weeks and then it's like, right.
I love that scene in the ballroom when she's like, I'm amazing.
I know.
And she just wants to hear her own footsteps.
And she's like, keep out. I'm busy doing a walk. The mayor, and she's like, look at that attractive girl, baby.
So true.
Such a pretty something.
Okay.
Okay.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Be sound.
Yeah,
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
Sleep. Go to sleep. All of you on the East Coast.
Especially you East Coast people. What are you guys doing?
Go to sleep.
Night,
Enough
night.
with this nonsense.
Night, night.
And I hope you have pleasant dreams. I hope they're pleasant. Okay?